Live back in action on the Pride of Detroit PODcast, prideofdetroit.com, Pride of Detroit on Twitter, Pride of Detroit on Facebook, bam, live, rolling on twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit. I am Chris Perfett, adequate host at Chris Perfett on Twitter. Very simple. It's the same as the name, Perfett. Joining me as always, the fearless leader, Jeremy Reisman at Detroit Online, managing editor of Pride of Detroit. We got our angst out of the way early on the post-game show. Look for that on the podcast feeds. We always put those up on the podcast feed along with the PODcast. Jeremy, how are we doing here? Especially since we're already down a rock god hiding from a tornado.
Yeah, and thoughts out to him. Hopefully everything works out with Ryan over there. But I'm doing okay, 0-4 is not exactly where I was hoping this team would be, but it's also not all that surprising. And, the injuries keep mounting up for the Lions, which is probably the most heartbreaking part of all of this. But, I don't know. This game was a lot of things that aren't that surprising and a couple things that are. So we'll get into it.
So I think I made mention of this on the post-game show, but we'll rehash this. My thought is that this is a lot of what we saw from the Lions before, and yet going into this game, I think there was this intention that, okay, well, they look pretty close. So they've got to get one here eventually, and the Bears look on the wrong side of doing right.
Right.
And I don't think we really considered too much. The alternative was that a lot of these things can just go completely batshit wrong for the Detroit Lions, which they did, especially in the red zone today. And I think that's the ultimate factor when you're leaving. I don't know how many points are we going to say they left in the red zone there? 21.
I mean, two turnovers and 2 turnover on downs inside the Bears' 10-yard line. That's not a great
28.
Yeah, that's at least. I mean, if you want to just kick field goals all 4 of those times, then sure, that's an extra 12 points. You want to score a touchdown all those times, like the Lions had basically done in every red zone trip prior to this game, then yeah, that's 28 points. And I think that's why I think today there's more anger than hope than anything else. Like last week, obviously there's a lot of reason for hope. This week it's more anger and frustration with Goff, with the coaching staff, because all that potential was right on the doorstep. Lions were less than 10 yards away 4 different times and came away with 0 points all those times.
The good side of Goff, I also think, came a little too late. Like, Goff has very much so been in these games Jekyll and Hyde.
Sure.
Like, hot, cold, and the hot came, usually has come late in these games. It came way too late this time.
Yeah.
It came way too late, and once again, it kind of came also at some frustrating decisions, compounding with those red zone woes when you're on 4th and 1. I think a lot of fans look at the decision for Goff to drop back again for probably what was like the 7th straight time, and he doesn't convert. And I think most people at home are seeing, God, fourth and a few feet. Why aren't you just running the football? Jamal Williams has been great in this game, and that's part of the mounting frustration. It's part of Goff. It's part of that. As much as I think people love going for it on 4th down, they want to at least see one of those actually get converted.
Yeah,
that's just the bad side of the dice roll sometimes too.
Well,
and this isn't seethe and cope out of me. This was an awful game for my emotion, but at the same time, like, it's what we've seen so far out of the Lions in 4 games.
And I think you put it nicely there with roll of the dice here, because this is a team that's just not very good on either side of the ball right now. So in order to win, you got to roll the dice. You got to hope that I don't know what's a good roll of the dice. Snake eyes is the bad. What's a good one? 7?
I'm too tired. I am off an overnight. You're asking me to play craps.
But the overall point being that, yeah, like maybe a normal team that can get some stops on defense, that can score points on other drives, maybe they kick that field goal towards the end of the day because they're confident in their offense going down and scoring a touchdown and their defense standing up and making a stop. The Lions can't have that confidence because they're not that good of a team. And this is, ever since our post-game show, I've went back and listened to Dan Campbell's press conference, and he basically said as much. Like, last week, maybe I would have kicked a field goal there because our defense was playing pretty well. Our offense was kind of on a roll. But maybe I kick a field goal there, like they did in that game. They don't go for a touchdown, they kick the field goal because he believes in their defense. Well, this time, Lions defense was not playing well in this game. It's the reason why they went for it on 4th and 5 earlier in that game. They were already down 14-0 in that game, and he just had a gut feeling, and maybe that's where I kind of shoo off from Campbell a little bit. In these last 2 weeks, he said some of these decisions he makes, they're gut feelings. They're based on what he feels in the moment, and that you can get carried away there. But this week, his gut feeling matched up with the analytics, and it all made sense to me. Like, this defense was playing really, really bad. You knew you were going to have to score some touchdowns. You knew you were going to have to score some points. And so he tried early in the game, didn't work. Tried late in the game. I know a lot of people think that's a toss-up. You want to make it a one-score game. You got an easy field goal there. But to me, it's 4th and less than one. Very high percentage play. More than 75% of teams converted on 4th and 1 or less last year. Your offense is cooking at that point. They're finally getting into some sort of a rhythm. They're finally scoring some points, and I don't know, like you've gotten that far down already. I think going forward in both situations was the correct call. And the one thing that Campbell took back, and I think this is something we can all agree on. You mentioned it, like if you're 4th and 1, maybe throwing the ball isn't the right case there. Isn't the right situation.
Not when it's Jared Goff. I know Jared Goff was kind of heating up. He's going to finish this game with, like, the box score for Jared Goff is kind of crazy sometimes when we have to look at it, because he threw for almost 300 yards in this game.
And pass rate over 100.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I'm sorry, but I'm watching him overthrowing receivers by like twice their height down the field. It gets mind-boggling sometimes. And then like the Bears knew you've been dropping back a lot, and you're emptying out your backfield on these pass plays. Like, they know what you're doing, so the coverage is there for them. Like, and again, as many fans have pointed out in that time, Jamal Williams was a beast in this game.
He was.
Like, and I think a lot of fans are asking, why didn't you just hand him the ball at least once on that drive?
Yeah.
And I know the clock is a situation. I know the clock is a situation, sure, but when you need just 1 yard, like, why not?
Yeah. And that's the one regret that Dan Campbell said. And it's one I like. If there's one thing that he needs to be criticized for, it's that 4th down play late in the game, 4th and 1. The Lions rushed to the line. They were in an obvious passing formation. They passed the ball. They needed a half a yard. Like a QB sneak picks that up 90% of the time, it feels like. And so he said specifically after the game, that's on me. I just think we need to huddle and give them a play call that's a little more 4th down oriented, 4th and short, 4th and a yard. Absolutely, 100%. But he even admitted, and he's also right, that the play call wasn't even that bad. He had an open Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had an open Quintus Cephas over the center. It's just the Lions aren't good enough. The Lions aren't good enough. They aren't good enough to execute, and so that's why you take risks, and the risks look bad. But you kick a field goal here, and then your defense did what it did on the last drive of the game. Let the Bears run out the clock. Game over.
I'm gonna get to more of Jared Goff, because you also mentioned that he had multiple reads there, but his read progression was also not there either. But I'm gonna set him aside because I think we will talk about him in the next segment. Overall, though, and I know it's not going to be a popular topic in Detroit this week, but I like the aggression.
Yeah,
like, you can't sit here and look at that you're on the losing side of that, and then Monday morning quarterback it. You either believe in that philosophy or you don't. Like, it's what, and I've even seen some other people who have like sat down, thought it over, and said, all right, yeah, it was the right decision. You're just gonna get the right outcome. And at the end of the day, as you say, like, they made the Bears look good. The Bears, who had like 1 net passing yard last week against the Cleveland Browns, the Lions just didn't perform on defense in this game. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but like, once again, not a lot of pressure on Justin Fields. You let him sit back in that pocket and throw on you. And a part of that is again, you're not that good. You're not that good. There's a lot of talk about Bobby Price in this game, but guess what? Like, Bobby Price has played, I think, so far above and beyond right now. And in this game, he finally looked like what he is, which is someone who was on the practice squad last year, who has converted from safety to cornerback.
2 months ago.
2 months ago made that conversion. Yeah. and you're asking him to go out there. And David Montgomery is on the ground in this game, pounding you as well too.
That to me was the more concerning development, is because we were all talking last week about, hey, this run defense
They
stopped
bottled
Lamar
up
Jackson,
Lamar Jackson. Yeah.
and looked pretty good against the run for most of that game. I know 5 point whatever a carry against Baltimore and 100 and so yards, but like that's Baltimore's running game. That's their bread and butter. And you had to imagine that's what the game plan was going to be this week against the Bears. Like they saw the disaster that was their passing game last week, so you knew they were going to come out and run. The Lions got gashed. And then once you get gashed, the game is over, because then the Bears concede that success through the air because they can run some play action. They can keep you on your heels. And they jump out to that 14-0 lead, and man,
it opens the playbook to Justin Fields, who once again isn't getting pressured. The whole reason he had 1 net yard last week was because he was getting pressured, because that's always been his weakness coming out of college, is that he doesn't have great vision of pressure coming in when he's in the pocket.
Yeah.
Lions didn't challenge him on that front. They didn't look at that game plan, and they lost. That was a large reason they lost because of it.
Yeah. I mean, it all works together, right? If you stop the run on first and second down, suddenly you're in obvious passing downs. Then you can pin your ears back and you can pressure Justin Fields. The Lions did get a couple opportunities and pressure Fields a couple times, and it worked. But the problem is that they just didn't get into that situation enough. They were getting gashed too often, and when you're in second and twos and third and twos, and I mean, I feel like this is actually a pretty good third down defense. The problem is they just don't get themselves into a lot of good third downs.
They also need to work on their tackling a little bit. Still a lot of mistackling going on, but that's been a problem for a while. But as we are going to break down the offense and the defense coming up here in a second, like, they just don't have the personnel to do that. And I think that a lot of people mad about this game are mad because God, Jeremy, everyone thought the Lions were going to beat the Bears because the Bears looked that bad last week. This was supposed to be the death knell for Matt Nagy. This was supposed to be the Lions are going to sign the walking papers. The Bears lose the god-awful Lions. How dare they? This was the end. And the narrative just didn't go that way.
I mean,
you know what? Hey, maybe we're playing 4-dimensional chess. Maybe this is the game that keeps Matt Nagy in Chicago. No, it's not. I can dream, though.
What couple things. One, I was absolutely right about the Lions' third down defense. The Bears converted 1 of 8 third downs in this game. So if the Lions can just get into third downs, they're not a bad defense. The problem is they're horrible on first and second down. Second of all, it's just the danger of week-to-week thinking, right? Like, the Lions are coming off a pretty good performance against the Ravens. The Bears are really bad against the Browns, who, by the way, pretty darn good team in the Browns. They held another team.
They held Minnesota to 7 points.
Yeah.
It was a defensive handstand.
And a second ago we were talking, not me, but some people were saying Kirk Cousins was an MVP candidate, and that all got erased because the Browns
Don't put that on me. Don't put that on me.
But my overall point, and we need to bring it to the discussion because I feel like there's way overreaction in the other direction now, is that week to week things change. You look good one week, you look bad another week. It doesn't mean you're a good team. It doesn't mean you're a bad team.
That's always been we've been covering this team. We've been doing this podcast now for 6 years. Right. And I swear to God, we fall victim to it too.
Oh,
like
100%.
We swing a little bit, but like the NFL is such a random ass league that I just don't feel comfortable. We have to deliver opinions, but half the time until we hit the halfway point of the year, I don't feel comfortable trying to judge a team.
Listen, and I think we can all agree this team is bad, but this team isn't going to go 0-17. Like I'll scream it at the top of the mountains. They're not going to go 0-17. Like they're bad on offense, they're bad on defense. They've shown improvements in some areas, and then they took a step back one week. Like that's just how it works sometimes. You're not always going to be the best run defense or get better every single week. No, it's just not how it works. Sometimes a team makes a good game plan against you. Sometimes you make a bunch of errors in the red zone. It's going to be okay. Like this team isn't going to make the playoffs. I'm not going to tell you this team is going to go, 8-9, anything crazy like that, but it's going to be okay. Like this isn't a disaster. It's not a great game.
Look, I picked this club to finish with 3 wins. Like I mean, yeah, up and around there. But that's what we're expecting at this point, and that's part of what a rebuild is. I had some people like saying like, "Oh, but rebuild's such an easy excuse." No, this is different. Like Jim Schwartz, when he got fired, that wasn't to go into a rebuild.
Right.
Jim Caldwell getting fired, that wasn't going to rebuild.
Yeah, it was to build
This
on
is
top of what they
it was
got.
to keep building. This is new. This
And-
is new for a lot of Lions fans, and I think that's part of like what's happening with the fandom is like
Yeah.
they're not used to processing this right now.
Right.
They're not used to processing that everything has collapsed. The entire like we might need five different positions on defense are draft needs right now. To say nothing of quarterback or wide receiver. There is so much work that has to be done.
For sure.
And it's such a long, and we've still got 13 more games ahead of us too.
And the one thing I'll say is like when Matt Patricia was brought in, it certainly wasn't viewed as a rebuild because they're coming off back-to-back 9 and 7 seasons, but he kind of rebuilt the roster. But it was a different kind of rebuild, right? It was a cultural rebuild. He brought in a bunch of veterans that he was comfortable with. It wasn't like, let's cut all these guys and get all of these new rookies in. That's what this is now, though. They're cutting all their veterans. They're trading guys away. They're trying to trade guys away. They're playing these incredibly young guys, which is not at all what Matt Patricia was doing. So you're right. This is a completely new kind of rebuild that we really haven't seen since, I don't know, like 0-16, like really like the season after that where you get a new quarterback, you get a whole new, I mean, this is
it was still a work in progress in 2009. Like, but again,
Right.
we haven't, the point is that you haven't seen this in over a decade.
Yes.
Detroit.
Agreed.
And I get that no other Detroit team is good right now. So maybe people are impatient because they don't have the outlet to go see wins. But hey, if you're rooting for the tank, by the way, this was a great week for you because I think the Jets picked up a win. The Giants picked up a win. Jaguars are still winless, but Urban Meyer is out in Columbus grinding on some ladies out there, allegedly. I don't think we've confirmed that video yet. But hey, you're in a good spot right now, and I'll save Jeremy the draft talk because I can see his ears starting to pop a little bit.
I mean,
but we are going to do what?
Besides draft talk, the thing you can hope for the rest of the season, and given what I think this coaching staff has done most of the time through this first quarter of the season, is improve players week by week. And I think in general we have seen week by week improvements. Not across the board, certainly, and this week might have been a step back, but I do think most of the coaches are still doing a pretty good job. And so I think that's something that can carry you over if you're like me and don't want to talk about the draft yet. I think you can.
No, I mean, you brought this up. You brought this up, I think, in the first week that me and Ryan were kind of reacting with the positives and you were kind of like pushing back against that a little bit because you wanted to see it. But I don't think I've seen that, like this team is still have yet to show it's quit. Yeah. Now it's still an early season, but they're now dealing with a lot of injuries now, apparently. Yep. But they're still showing that they're trying to be adaptive and they don't want to be completely out of these games. They want to keep trying to fight. And that's commendable.
Sure.
And for better or worse, these are who you are for the long run because of the 6-year contract. Like I'm baffled by the people who are trying to call for Campbell's job after 4 games.
I get my only retort there would be like, if you're already seeing quit on this team 4 weeks into the season, that would be a huge, huge red flag. The fact that you're not seeing it in 4 weeks, the regular season so far, that's like, okay, I better not. We're only 4 weeks into this regime.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break. When we come back on the Pride of Detroit PODcast, we'll cast our gaze upon the offense. We've mentioned Jared Goff a little bit more. I think me and Jeremy might clash heads about where he is. We also want to talk about the run game and a little bit of hype for the wide receivers. I know I just said wide receiver might be a draft need, but there's 1 or 2 guys who I think have stood out from the pack, and I think they deserve those accolades. We'll talk about that and, yes, some injury news later on in the show here as we continue along on the Pride of Detroit PODcast. What you got in the cup? It's always like
water.
Just water.
Yeah.
Can you get the chat up? By the way, we've kind of been in the two.
I thought it was open.
Yeah,
it should be open now.
Yeah.
No, it's just water. I'm showing this like you can see, but you can't really see.
Honestly, like as much as I am Drillis for Willis, you might talk me into some defensive talent after what I've been seeing from this team so far, man.
Chat, what rhymes with Thibodeau?
Dribideau.
That doesn't work.
What did you guys do to Ryan? Ryan's hiding in a basement right now. He's got a tornado warning.
He said
Tank me,
if he's
daddy.
safe, he'll try to jump in here, but obviously,
Call him
hope he's doing okay.
Yeah.
Suck my toe for Thibodeau? Is that what we're doing?
Wow, that's a little too kinky for me.
I mean, that doesn't like. Yeah, it has to be something a little more negative. I mean, I'm not
Get hoed for Thibodeau. No.
What about?
I don't think we're gonna.
Trayvon's injury? Who's Trayvon? I don't even know who that is. I'm sorry. Do you think Brunell is an ineffective coach, or is Goff just not good? Oh, I think it's
Goff's just not good.
I think first of all, it's still early.
Oh, blow for Thibodeau. That's easy.
It's true.
Why didn't I?
Wow. Chat. I kind of like Death Blow a little bit better though, in terms of just the cadence, or maybe we could just do Wee Blow for Thibodeau.
I just don't think Goff's good. Like everyone I've talked to from LA, like I know that everyone who I talked to who is like a Rams fan or watched him play in LA, like I know it wasn't good with him with Sean McVay, and I expressed some like let's wait and see if it was just him falling out with McVay or if maybe a new fresh place will help. I don't think that's the case. I just think this is who Goff is at the end of the day. He's going to be streaky. He's going to be streaky.
Yeah.
He's going to get you some good streaks. He's going to be able to throw the ball down the field, but it's not going to be accurate. It's going to wobble a lot. And he's going to get first read or check down. And that's it. That's who he is.
I mean, we should probably, since we teased, we should probably save Goff talk for the actual podcast.
Yes, yeah.
But
the one thing I'll revisit that.
The one thing I want to throw out there is like I remember when I think it was the episode that I wasn't on, the schedule release like reactions that you and Ryan were doing. One of the questions that came up was, what week will you have made up your mind about Jared Goff?
Oh God, I don't remember my answer.
I'm pretty sure you both said like Thanksgiving. Like it's
Thanksgiving.
We have to give him to
at
least Thanksgiving. And so like I don't think we should necessarily go back on it because there are a lot of like extenuating circumstances. Like
can you remember that? Because let's bring that up again when we get into this segment because I had completely forgotten about that actually.
Yeah, but I mean like receivers suck. Pass protection wasn't great today.
No, it
still
was
a new
not,
offense for him. Like. I'm not trying to make excuses for Jared Goff because, I mean, if you've paid attention to me, I've said basically from training camp, this dude does not look like the dude. And I still
I just don't think he's trending upwards. I just don't think it's likely he'll trend upwards. That's all. I think some people have made up their minds. And, like, he's kind of looked the same every game so far. There's no real variance yet, but anyway. Let's see what else. I'm not going to lie. I have been really excited about the MLB playoffs and the race, the wild card race that was happening today. So I'm trying to catch up on some NFL stuff.
MLB.
I once again going to our idea that you just don't know who these teams are. The Rams are getting shellacked right now by the Cardinals.
Oh yeah, it's because Matthew Stafford can't win big games.
Oh God, yeah, that's gonna come back.
Packers
are crushing the Steelers right now.
I was way wrong about the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger. I thought because he torched the Lions in the preseason, I'm like, he looks really good. Maybe he just needed like a year to suck and then come back and kill people, and he looks bad.
The Dolphins, I know, it's injuries. The Titans are what really shock me. Not quite completely shock me because I kind of knew that Ryan Tannehill, given how many turnover-worthy plays he had last year, he was kind of due for this. But like, is it weird if I say 150 yards on the ground for Derrick Henry? The Jets kind of contained that threat.
Maybe a little.
They don't. He doesn't have any. Tannehill doesn't really have anyone to throw to right now. But still, like the Titans' defense is bad. The Titans' defense is really bad.
Yeah.
And then the Bills, a second shutout game for their defense.
That was the easiest pick for my Survivor football.
Oh yeah.
I know there were some people that I think picked the Titans this week, and so I might be among a few left.
Well, since you're talking Survivor, I get to talk one bit on fantasy. Your boy might need some prayers because I benched Kenny Galladay in a PPR league for Hunter Renfrow, who I just picked up. I still think it's the right decision, but I'm looking on my bench and seeing Galladay with 17 points, and I'm not happy about it. Especially since I've had to go up against David Montgomery, Jonathan Taylor, and Dallas Goedert, and Stephon Diggs, who've all had very big days. Bryce Young, 2023.
And there are about 35 people left in the Pride of Detroit Survivor pool. Lost almost half of them today.
Oh, you benched David Montgomery for CeeDee Lamb. Oh, RIP.
That's why you don't play fantasy football. Because you get biased by your team, and you're like, I don't want to have to root for David Montgomery. I'm gonna bench him. But and even worse news for you, David Montgomery got injured. Although I heard it might not be that serious. So
yeah, Cromon's the big loser. Cromon is in our Pride of Detroit Discord fantasy league, who has Cordell Patterson benched and Cordell Patterson in PPR 36.4 points. I might have to kick you some money in return for that. You're benching Stafford. You really shouldn't.
What positives do you take from today's game?
There's still a lot of positives.
Running game still looks pretty decent. A pretty good Bears defense that they went up against today. And I know they lost Akeem Hicks early in this game, and that's a big loss for them in the middle of that.
This was a brutal game for both teams when it comes to injuries.
Yeah. But I mean, it's tough, like when you're evaluating the offense here, right? Because like part of you wants to give them credit. Like if you drive into the red zone 5 times in a game, if you only knew that fact, that's a pretty damn good day from your offense.
Yeah,
and you figure in a normal week, you score a touchdown on maybe 60% of those trips, so that's 3 touchdowns out of your 5 trips, and then 2 field goals. Like that alone, right there, you're talking about 27 points, which would be a very commendable day against a pretty good Bears defense. But then you also can't ignore the fact that Jared Goff was making mistakes in the red zone. You can't ignore the fact that this team has, for whatever reason, struggled on 4th and 1 multiple times now. You can't ignore that a strip sack happened because Penei Sewell's starting at left tackle because you have so many injuries on the offensive line. Those are legitimate things that happen. You can't just be like, well, they got into the red zone, it's fine.
The only thing I will say is that there were a couple of turnovers that you just can't plan for in the end. Like there was the tip ball up.
Yeah.
And then obviously like the snap thing is hilarious. It's hilarious. You gotta laugh at it. When you see something like that, you just gotta laugh at it.
True.
I don't know if that's on Frank Ragnow. I don't know if that's on Jared Goff. I don't know where the miscommunication happened. I don't care. It's funny. I had someone asking me because it looked like it was off Goff's groin, and I was asked for a second, like, "Hey, is the nut shot turnover going to replace the butt fumble?" And thankfully, it was just off the thigh.
Yeah. Plus, the Lions aren't as relevant as the Jets on Thanksgiving, so no one's gonna. The nut fumble is not going to.
Was the butt fumble on Thanksgiving?
It was.
Was that against who was that against?
The Patriots, I believe.
That's right. Was that the third? Was that like AFC Thanksgiving game they throw in? Okay,
I think so. Is that all right? I don't know if the Patriots is right, but I mean, it was.
But I think that was talk about a year where shit fell apart. That was like one of those. That was like because the Jets were coming off like an appearance in the AFC Championship the previous year.
Yeah, no, the Jets were,
or they made some sort of
good
AFC playoff.
It was kind of that era of Jets football that was kind of okay. Like they still, they still had a joke of a quarterback, so they could only go so far.
Yeah, but they had a killer defense.
They did.
So like,
but yeah,
you had Darrelle Revis.
Obviously, we were going to call this one the nut fumble instead of the butt fumble, but who cares?
But it's not. It's not factual there. So yeah. Yeah, Will Fork destroyed the left guard and Sanchez pulled a Goff and panicked. Man, I miss Will Fork. Talk about players of yesteryear right now. Will Fork, man. What else? What else was happening today? So the Ravens look like they're going to ice this one away against the Broncos and expose those frauds. Dallas exposed the frauds that are the Panthers. Sam Darnold's one of those guys who I'm looking at his stat sheet, and it's like, that's a lie. I don't care. That's a lie.
Sorry, I was just communicating with Ryan. Ryan seems like he's okay, so that's good.
Okay,
news.
cool.
Don't know if he's going to join us or not. I told him he sounded like he was pretty stressed out. So I told him if he's stressed out, he can just take.
Yeah, and like I'm kind of like on my third cycle of caffeine, so I'm gonna try to pump this one out, and I'm sure everyone kind of wants to go see Sunday Night Football so they can just have Tom Brady shoved down their throats for 3 hours.
I almost don't want to watch that game out of spite. Like I'm just so spiteful of the over coverage of that game that I'm just like, no, fuck it. I don't want to watch
Tom Wickersham playing for a book to come out around this time about the inner workings of the Patriots. Mm-hmm. Just like
I don't know if you saw, there was a tidbit in that book. So you remember the Patriots Super Bowl in which Malcolm Butler got benched? Like he didn't play?
Yes.
And everyone was like, why didn't Malcolm Butler play? That's like, he's great. Well, you want to take a guess at why Malcolm Butler didn't play, guys? It's because he got into a chewing match with the one, the only, Matt Patricia.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
They got in a screaming match at each other in practice the week of the Super Bowl, and they decided to bench their player. Well, and was it Malcolm Butler's fault? I don't know. What do we think, Chet? Do you think it was Malcolm Butler's fault, or maybe was it the other guy's fault? The guy that maybe drove some of the best players on the Lions out of the team.
I know you're going for the Lions angle for the most interesting tidbit in there, but I'm sorry, that doesn't beat the idea that apparently Bill O'Brien was trying to throw his job with the Texans so he could get rehired by the Patriots and be back in Foxborough to be Bill Belichick's successor.
Is that in there?
Apparently, yes. According to Wickersham, Brady and Patriots owner once talked in 2017 who might succeed Belichick in New England. Or offensive coordinator Josh McDaniel has long been viewed as a candidate. Remember, he blew up his opportunity to go coach the Colts to go back at the last minute. But former coordinator Bill O'Brien's name came up. At the time, Bob was head coach for the Texans. In a power struggle with general manager Rick Smith, O'Brien reportedly heard about his name as a possibility to eventually succeed Belichick. According to the book, O'Brien told those close to him that he was trying to get fired by the Texans.
Wow. Can we just, like, this entire 2-decade span of the Patriots, we need to never hire a coach who was ever a part of that ever again.
We need to ban the words Patriot way.
Yikes.
That's the thing. How am I not myself? Like, his record shows that might be true. I totally believe Bob was throwing with the Texans. By the way,
how'd that work out for him? By the way, is he the Patriots head coach now? Is that what happened?
No. Where is he back with the Patriots?
I don't think he's currently under.
Is he even employed right now?
I think so. Does anyone know if Bill O'Brien is currently hired?
Currently the offensive coordinator. Oh, right. He's at Alabama. That's right.
Where the fuck else? You're guys who
listen.
saw success in New England are either with the Patriots or with Alabama. No one else.
Listen, Nick Saban's school for redeeming head coaches is very good. Just never ever go up against him as a former assistant, because he just took off Lane Kiffin's head and now is 24-0 against his former assistants. Nick Saban will, unlike Bill Belichick, Nick Saban will never let you come for the crown.
I just after Matt Patricia, everything about both Alabama and New England just makes me nauseous. I don't want everything.
I think Alabama's fine. I think Alabama's fine. That's true, genuine success down there.
Oh, it is, but it's all Saban. Like I don't trust anybody.
Oh yeah, it's Saban.
I don't trust anybody who else.
I think he's good for. I mean, but like you see his guys have success in other places. Like Kirby Smart is legitimately a good piece for Georgia. But there were a lot of failed Alabama coordinators too. Yes, I agree. I didn't have this in the rundown. I don't know if you want to quickly do it, but I'm already seeing people, and I think we can blame our favorite radio station in town for this too, asking about trading for Deshaun Watson.
Nope. I don't want to talk about it. It's not going to
I
happen.
just,
There's no point in talking about it.
I just want to say one thing. I just want to say one thing. One thing. There is a trap waiting for Deshaun Watson, and that is if he gets traded to any place, or if he goes up and starts and plays a snap at all, he's immediately getting thrown on the commissioner's exempt list, because no way, no how, man. Like this is the only reason he's not on the exempt list right now is they can't throw him on the exempt list if he's not playing.
Oh, they can. They don't have to. They don't have to make a decision right now.
Right. But I'm saying, like, if he starts playing snaps, he will get thrown on it.
Probably.
Like, I've heard it from smarter people than me. Like, that's the situation. So if you are literally throwing your draft picks away to trade for Deshaun Watson. Don't do it. Don't fall for anyone telling you that you should do it. Also, Deshaun Watson, horrible human being. But you know where I stand on that. Anyway,
end of discussion.
Yeah, end of discussion. I want to talk about the offense now. Do we have any alerts?
I should probably go back and do the alerts recognition from our first stream.
Oh God, yeah, we forgot to do that during.
I didn't really do it at all, so hopefully you guys are still around. If not, I apologize for not calling you out earlier. Brennan, by the way, a full year worth of subscription at tier 2. Says 1 year feels like it's gone by so quickly. Appreciate that. Captain James Kirk with the 6 months says Giants win. No, here we come, number 1. Darth Hippo, good friend Tony, who will at some point join this podcast because he paid his way on here with his donation, but I've slacked in getting him on here. Says one more month than the number of losses the Lions will have this year. He says 18 months subscription. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. We're not going to have you on the podcast anymore. I take it back. Jim with the 10 months says life is difficult. Joshua then dropped the 10 gifted bomb, which he technically owed from our bet, but I feel bad because his bet was that Romeo Okwara would get 2 sacks. Romeo Okwara obviously suffered an injury, probably a season ender in the first quarter. Derek Boberick with the 1 bit. Thick Boy with the 5 months says Goff ain't it. Junk Trunk with the 100 bit says we have to replace virtually every position on defense. You're not wrong. Live for my boys with the 3 months says, did Williams go home at halftime? I think Chris is going to get into that a little bit more maybe when we talk about the offense. Joshua Mercer, 16 months. J-Man Jr., 4 months. And I think we're caught up.
I think we are too. Sorry, my allergies are killing me. Santa Ana winds came through California, and suddenly I lost all the good, cool weather, and now it's back in the 90s again, really dry, and dust is clogging me up. So, well, the other reason why I want to keep going.
All right, you want to get into it?
Let's get into it. I don't know if Baltimore Beatdown is still here, but congratulations to his squad for 13 seconds left, 23-7. I think the Ravens can ice that one away.
Yeah, whatever. Screw you, Baltimore.
Screw you. There we go. And welcome back to the Pride of Detroit PODcast. Let's turn our gaze from this game over to the offensive side of the ball. There are 3 main key points I think we want to talk about. I want to continue. I want to set aside, I should say, our conversation on Jared Goff. We'll come back to that in a second because I feel like. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to talk about the run game? What do you feel? Dealer's choice.
Let's kick this segment off with something positive and talk about the run game.
Let's talk about the run game. Now, you say positive. I think there is a big caveat to that, as always. But the run game remains the one, I think, bright point for this Lions roster.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Jamal Williams and maybe this is where some people have a point of contention, but Jamal Williams continues to get the early looks in this game, continues to start every game, but he earned it. And the one thing that Lions coaches have said, and Deuce Staley has said this, is they're going to ride the hot hand in a game. If someone is running and it's working, they're going to continue to give him the rock, and that's what they did in the first half. Jamal Williams got 12 carries for 57 yards in the first half, averaging 4.8 a carry. That's what you want to see out of your running back. That's what they went with, and it was working a lot better than Swift. Swift had 6 carries in the first half, 12 yards, averaging 2 yards a carry.
Jamal just has such good vision to see what the offensive line is giving him and where the gaps are. Like, he's getting to that second level pretty regularly.
He's not messing around. He's just downhill running.
He's not. Downhill running, and he's finding the gaps, and that's all you really need to do. It's funny because you mentioned DeAndre Swift, and I feel like this is where the fly gets in the ointment a little bit, because the coaching staff has said that they considered in this game DeAndre Swift to be their starting running back. And look, I think at this point, DeAndre Swift, there's value to him in that he is a pass-catching running back. He actually was fairly active. I think he had 4 receptions on 6 targets, averaged about 8 yards per reception. So, like, he's got a lot of value there. But, like, when you need, for what we're talking about, Jamal Williams to go in the trenches and get you yards, DeAndre Swift did not appear in this game at all. He did not. He had 8 carries for 16 yards.
That ain't going to cut it. And
no, it's not, especially when Jamal Williams is there giving you that positive competition that he likes to talk about.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right. Like, the Lions have been talking up Swift a lot in the last 2 weeks. Last week it was we got to get him more involved in the passing game early. This week it was Swift has shown us enough in these first 3 weeks that we need to get him more involved. And they didn't. And it kind of, it seems kind of warranted. It wasn't a great day for Swift. He wasn't breaking any tackles, and especially in the running game. And we really haven't seen that out of him all season. He hasn't been breaking a lot of tackles in the run game. I'm with you, though. He's still very much a weapon in the passing game, but the Lions have to figure out more ways to get him the ball there, because it seems like teams are starting to key in on him, starting to key in on TJ Hawkinson. And so really the only thing that is consistently working right now with the offense is Jamal Williams. And so I don't necessarily view it as a problem that he's been getting these starts, because he's performing well. He's proving them right by those decisions. Now, DeAndre Swift is the more dynamic back. He's the more, home run hitter. He's a guy that can potentially give you, instead of, the 5 to 15 yarders that Jamal Williams is giving you, he can get you those 20 to 40 yarders. But we haven't seen it yet. And so
my worry is that if like you keep riding that hot hand on Jamal Williams, teams are going to start knowing what you're going to do with the running back you put on the field. They're going to know that Swift is better as a pass catcher. Sure. So if we're playing Swift out there, they're going to look for Swift in as the dump off. Whereas if it's Jamal Williams out there, it's like, all right, this guy's going to come right up the middle.
Right, and that's a problem.
You got to stop. You got to not be predictable.
That's the problem that we got in last year, right? Like, Swift was the obvious guy that they basically, anytime Adrian Peterson was in the game, we knew what exactly was coming.
It's the old Theo Riddick problem.
Right. But the difference here is that the Lions, for the first time in whenever, and bless Anthony Lynn's heart, they're putting 2 running backs out there at once. Finally. So it's giving at least a little bit of, like, I still think Anthony Lynn is doing a fantastic job. I know.
Now that said, putting 2 running backs out there, another problem for DeAndre Swift. He's not good in pass protection.
True. Very true. And that was exposed a ton in this game. And that's something that Jamal Williams is very good in, which, again, like, that's why he's probably getting a lot of these early game looks, is he's doing everything that that they're asking them to do, and doing it really, really well. I can't say the same for DeAndre Swift yet.
So we've said a lot of good about Jamal Williams. I think a lot of fans are now going to raise their hand and say, okay, that's cool, but where was he in the second half? But again, now we're getting into the problem where the Lions are down bad and they need to throw the ball a lot.
Yep. That's it. I mean, I don't know where else you find rushing attempts early in that game. And they only ran the ball 5 times in the second half. I mean, and one of those was a Goff scramble, which was actually a fumble. So literally only 4 rushing attempts in the second half from your running backs. That's not good. That's certainly not what the Lions want to be, and it's certainly not how they're going to win games. I think we all agree we know what the Lions want to be. They want to be this rushing team that tires defenses out by the fourth quarter, and they're just cramming Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift down your throat for all 4 quarters, but they can't be that team when your defense sucks. They can't be that team when you turn the ball over twice in the red zone. They can't be that team when your offense doesn't close out and score points in the first half. And so you're left with kind of this imbalanced team where we know what their identity, what they want their identity to be, but they can't get there because of the rest of their damn team.
Are you new topic? Are you worried about TJ Hawkinson getting shut down by opposing defenses? You made mention of it earlier, and he kind of had a whatever day, eight targets, 4 receptions on those targets, 42 yards, long of 22. So,
I mean,
do your favorite thing, take away the long, and not a great average.
Well, I mean, if your long is 8 yards, you're 22 yards. Sorry,
22 yards. Yeah.
I mean, even 4 yards and 42 is not what you need out of TJ Hawkinson. You need 80, 90 yards that you were getting in the first 2 games of the season. But I mean, I don't think Hawkinson was doing a particularly good job getting off of his coverage in this game. I think what was interesting is the Bears countered with a corner a lot of time. There was a lot of times a corner opposite him instead of a safety or linebacker, and that's obviously going to be a tougher matchup for TJ. But this is a problem that I was concerned about all offseason. Is like when you have TJ Hawkinson as your kind of one and only threat, the defenses are going to take away that one threat and challenge you to have someone else step up and make a play. And for the first 3 quarters of this game, the person who stepped up in TJ Hawkinson's absence was nobody. Like maybe a catch here or there for Quintus Cephas, but and we'll talk a little about some of the good things that came from the receiving core. But it all came in the second half. I mean, the first half, I'm looking. Yeah. Cephas had 2 catches. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 2 catches, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah. No, it all came in the second half, and that's, I think, where the wide receivers kind of came a little bit. As you said, Quintus Cephas, obviously, your yards leader for the day with 83, but Khalif Raymond was the one with the 2 touchdown grabs.
Yep.
And Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, finally came off that milk carton, started showing up in the game. Even though, again, I think he's struggling to pull down some of those passes from Jared Goff a lot in the game. And he was covered well, I think, in this game, too. Rookie wide receiver, he's got to get used to being covered by someone like the Bears defense.
It's a tricky situation, right? Because when you're down 21-0, the Bears are obviously going to drop their coverage a little bit. They're going to give these guys a little bit more breathing room, and Goff took it. To Goff's credit, there was a stretch in that 3rd and 4th quarter where Goff looked pretty darn good, and he was taking everything the Bears were giving him, and he was getting good chunks of 15, 20 yards, and the receivers were doing their jobs there. But how much of that is the Bears playing defense? How much prevent defense? How much of that is Jared Goff and the receivers actually getting open? It's hard for me to judge because these guys aren't doing it early in games. And so I need to see those guys do it early in games because they weren't. There was that one play where Jared Goff scrambled and made a really good pass, and I think it was to Cephas that got them into a 1st and goal situation. It was an awesome play from Jared Goff. And then they showed the wide angle to, the Talib look or whatever they called it. And you watched and you watched and you watched, and the entire time I'm looking at all the receivers. I'm like, no wonder he's scrambling around and trying to figure something out. There's nobody open. There's nobody open. There's until the very last second
Chicago's
when he throws it.
Chicago linebackers in coverage were doing a great job.
Yeah,
today.
Linebackers, corners, everybody, and maybe I underrated the Bears secondary a little bit because Jalen Johnson is very good, and it's a young secondary, but they were bottling up this offense, especially in the passing game early on, and it was tough to watch. It was tough to watch, and I do like that they got Khalif Raymond involved late, and I do think his speed is an asset to this team. I think that touchdown pass where they sent him in motion, and then once the snap came, he went right back in the other motion and just beat everybody with his speed. That's a well-designed play. That's a smart play. Of course, that's only a play for 3 yards, a 3-yard touchdown. But yeah, this team is going to have to somehow challenge someone downfield, and outside of TJ Hawkinson, I don't think they have a guy that can challenge downfield until Tyrell Williams comes back from his concussion.
Yeah. I think we've waited long enough to rip this Band-Aid off about Jared Goff, right?
Yeah, sure.
So you brought this up, and I had completely you like keeping the receipts around here. So feed me the receipt that you had about Jared Goff.
Well, since it seems like everyone has made up their mind about Jared Goff at this point, not everybody, but a lot of people have. One thing to that I think is a nice thing to look back in hindsight is you guys, and by you guys I mean you and Ryan, had a podcast back in the schedule release days, and one of the like questions you were doing like a little questions game. One of the questions was, at what point in the season will we be able to know whether Jared Goff is the dude or not? And if I'm not mistaken, y'all said Thanksgiving, which is still quite. I mean, we're still a month and a half away from that.
We did say Thanksgiving.
Are you still feeling the same?
Here's the thing: is like I feel like if the trend upward is going to come from Jared Goff, it's got to come pretty soon. B, it's been the same story out of Jared Goff each of these games.
Yeah.
And that's like, I haven't written my complete book on Jared Goff yet, but I can't fault anyone who's like maybe tired after 3 games. I get it. But I will say, in Jared Goff's defense, we've talked a lot about how his main weapon is now everyone's keyed in on it.
Yep.
He has no supporting run game that is consistent through the game, through the day. Again, you look back at when those Rams teams were good, it was always because he had a supporting run game in Todd Gurley before Todd Gurley fell off the shelf. But that allowed him to do play action and to not get pressured as much. But like, just there's so many like that all is accepted, warranted, granted. He's just not going through his reads, man. He's not going through his reads, and it's happening every game. He's doing first read or check down real fast. There's plenty of guys who are open deeper. I think there was like one play where it was like, was it Raymond and it was Amon-Ra, or it might have been Cephas and Amon-Ra. My memory is fried. I'm sorry. I've been working off overnights again. And he just didn't see the other, whoever he threw it to one of them, and he just never saw the other one wide open because that wasn't part of his read progression. It's a little rough out there. And I feel like we're getting Jekyll and Hyde by him every game. And I think, as I said in the first segment, the good is starting to come later and later in games. And that's going to be the killer most of anything, is like, you just need someone consistent. I still think he's the better option right now than, immediately blowing this up and like, I don't know, putting in David Blau or something crazy like that, which I don't think that's realistic at all. So for better or worse, he's still the quarterback. I think he's going to have some easier games to deal with. We just ran into a Bears defense that was hungering after getting humiliated to start this year.
Well, yeah, I mean, even the Bears got a good defense. And honestly, you look down the line of everyone the Lions have played, Ravens got a good defense. 49ers on paper have a pretty good defense. Even the Packers defense can be good at times. So they haven't exactly had an easy reign of games.
And he plays well when you're behind, which is a skill. I just think I would like to see him play well to get those leads and hold on to them too, which obviously the Lions haven't had a lot of opportunities to do that. There's going to be some more opportunities. And I think the reason why I had said Thanksgiving is looking at that schedule. They're like, okay, Rams and Steelers, both those games are going to hurt. But there's some other defenses.
I'm not sure.
Rams will hurt. We're reevaluating the Steelers right now. Browns, I think that's going to hurt. Browns are a hellacious defense.
Browns are legit.
But there's other teams on there that should prove like chances for you to get some targets. And again, a lot of those games result predicated on those fourth down decisions and just the inability to convert some of those. And we're talking to probably a different story on Jared Goff.
No question. Even if you just convert some of the early ones so you aren't in that 21-0 hole where suddenly Goff has got to play hero ball. And I don't know how many times I have to say it on this podcast. The Lions are not built to play hero ball. They're not built. Jared Goff is not built to play hero ball. They have no interest in playing hero ball where they have to throw it 30 times in the second half. That's not how this team is going to win games. And unfortunately, it's been the situation they've been in 3 out of their 4 games.
The only thing I'll say on Jared Goff is I think the one thing I am certain of, he's just not a long-term commitment for them. Maybe they probably have a lot more faith in him than I do, but I don't see him. I would think. I think that's what we all assumed though. He's just not going to last more than like a year or 2 on his contract after this.
They're probably locked into him for next year for sure. Whether he's going to be the starter or not, that's up for debate. But
Mhm.
My overall thoughts on Jared Goff in this game are mixed because, I mean, it's mostly bad. The one thing I'm surprised about is the inaccuracies. Like he had that seam on
He
Khalif
was
Raymond for
overthrowing
an
guys. He
easy
was
touchdown. Yeah,
overthrowing
a lot of
TJ and
overthrows. And granted, like again, there isn't these receivers are not creating a lot of space. So I think the thought process there for Goff is let me put it in a place where either my guy is going to get it or no one is going to get it. Problem is no one can get it where he's throwing it. So it's not even
yeah,
even there.
he's not creating, he's not trying to create, I will give him this, he's not making a lot of turnover worthy throws out there.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's by design. I think that's why you're seeing him overthrow guys. It's why you're seeing these things that are just out of the reach of the receivers because he's being risk averse. That I mean that's how you that word risk averse can describe Jared Goff in a nutshell. And unfortunately, he's still turning the ball over with fumbles.
Yeah.
But my other
one of the weirdest fumbles I've seen in a while.
Right. And I don't know if he gets credited that for not. But either way, like
I think that's off rag now.
The other point I was going to say is the other thing you were talking about, the reads, him not progressing through his reads, him locking in on one thing. Part of me wants to believe that's just something that's going to come. You know, it's a new offense for him. It's new receivers. It's bad receivers. He hasn't developed trust with anybody yet. The problem with that theory, though, is these are the same problems he was having in Los Angeles. These are the things that the Rams kicked him out of town for, is that he locked on to his number 1 and 2 receivers, and he had better receivers in LA, and it still wasn't
he
working.
had Cooper Kupp.
And so he would lock onto his first read. If it wasn't there, he would check down. And now teams are starting to take away those check down options. They're starting to take away your DeAndre Swifts, your TJ Hawkinson, and you're left with what? You're left with Goff trying to force things into tight windows, and he's just not good enough quarterback to do that. I thought he was a little more accurate than he showed today, but it's not working right now. And I don't blame necessarily coaches. I mean, the blame goes everywhere, right? Like, protection wasn't very good in this game either, so Goff had to force some throws. He was feeling the pressure on that 4th and 1 that he overthrew to Amon-Ra St. Brown that he probably could have stepped into and completed. Receivers are an issue. Lions getting behind is an issue. All these things are an issue, and it's. I think we always have to reiterate how bad of a scenario he's in right now, because he's on a team that can't play defense, which means he always has to play from behind. He's now dealing with a beat up offensive line. He's now dealing with a horrible receiving core. It's just a tough situation for anyone to pull themselves out of. But at the same time, Goff isn't helping. He isn't helping this situation. Like, the fact that they're not converting on all these red zone opportunities, it's kind of his fault too. And so,
yeah, I mean, even that 4th and 1, like that wasn't. I mean, I'm killing it because it wasn't a rush on that thing, but like that wasn't a bad play.
No.
That wasn't a bad design play there, and he just didn't put it home. He can't put it home.
Same thing as the Packers game. Exact same. It's same route, same down and distance, same open receiver, and Goff missed him both times. And so, if you want to complain about going for it on 4th and 1, maybe that's your argument, is that Goff has proven he can't play in those big moments. But it's a lose-lose situation, because you're either putting the game in the defensive hand by kicking a field goal, which I think we can all agree the defense did not look good in this game, or you're putting in their offense's handball, and they've been the better unit for the year, but they obviously had a lot of struggles towards as they got closer to the end zone there. So do or die or die.
It's a bad situation, but so are all the alternatives. Yes. I guess.
Yep.
So I guess that maybe keeps him towards Thanksgiving. In my book, the prognostication for me just still isn't great, is what I'm going to say. But yeah,
agreed.
I don't know. You mentioned the defense. We're going to have to go there, and we've danced around the offensive line. There's a lot of injuries from this game. We're going to talk about their impact, because that's the hell part of this whole game. The injuries were brutal here, and that's what's going to hurt this team more than anything.
More than losses, to at least get for sure.
More than more than losses, more than trying to play for pride or anything like that. These injuries are going to really put the Lions behind the 8 ball. We'll discuss all of them when we come back on the Pride of Detroit PODcast.
That felt like a really sad segment.
As soon as we got into Goff, like, what are you? Yeah, Cram. We're trying to say, Chris, that Raymond isn't as good as Kupp. Yeah. Kappa.
And this keeps getting brought up. I'll show it.
What?
Desktop. This is a 4th and 1 play
Oh.
where, I mean, you can blame Goff for not seeing Cephas here, but like his first read is Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you see that look, that's what you want to see. He's open. But here's the problem.
Just like even a quick glance to the side.
But
like he's not out of vision.
It's a quick play. It's a quick play. I don't blame him for missing this guy because his first read is open. Here's what I blame him for. And granted, there is this Bears defender right here that is falling towards him, and he's leaning away from that. But he's still, like, look at all this.
It's like the pressure's picked up.
Well, except for this guy who's barreling towards his knees.
Oh, yeah.
But he still has the entire left side of the field to step into that throw. And it's there. So I don't, like, yeah, it's unfortunate he missed Cephas, and that's a much easier throw to make, although he has to make it through traffic, including this guy's diving at his knees. Maybe this guy gets a hand on it. It's not as gimme of a throw as it looks. This one, however, that's a throw every NFL quarterback has to make 100% of the time. 100% of the time. It's not an easy throw because it's not one.
Especially on 4th and 1.
Yeah. So, I mean...
Like ball game's on the line here.
Yep.
Yeah, I this felt like a eulogy. I'm sorry, man. Like, I know we're like probably being really depressive about a lot of this, but I mean,
we'll try to end with something positive.
I feel like I just got to come up with like game shows for us throughout this season to take our mind off some of this stuff at some point.
We'll be all right. You want Zazu? Zazu, come here. He's been mad at me because I haven't been doing anything with him all day.
Yeah, Ruby was like yowling at me during the post game because I haven't been playing with him all weekend. Prizes, yeah, the prizes is I don't yell at you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my god, I'm tired.
There we go. Puppy makes everybody feel better, right?
Kinda.
Fairness, it seems like Campbell doesn't. It's the truth, though. Yeah, let's be positive. Jeremy is giving up 50 subs at the end. Nope. No, I'm not. Lions are going to win 4 games this season. They're going to steal a couple, and you guys are going to look like fools. And they still got to play the Eagles this season. Woo!
Do you have any interest in this Urban Meyer story?
It feels tough to talk about when nothing is verified at this point, but I do find... Like, if Lions fans are ever feeling down, Jacksonville's a dumpster fire already.
I like that. I think, was it you in the Slack who asked me and thought, oh, this might be an older picture because he's wearing an Ohio State
yeah, right.
shirt. And I think my point to you was like, I don't think they make Jacksonville Jaguars branded salmon pink quarter zips. I've seen some people trying to say that this is deliberate, that he's leaking this to try to get out of there. And like, I hate to break it to him, but this isn't college. There's no Baptist boosters clutching their pearls. They're not going to fire you for infidelity. And if you tell them you need to take some time off to work on your marriage, they're going to tell you, Shad Khan's going to tell you, bleep you, wait until January when you actually have an off season. He's about to have a heart attack again. I mean, if he's about to have a heart attack again, what's he doing pounding drinks in Columbus?
Well, I think the insinuation there is that he'd never.
No, I know.
He never was like, that's the excuse he threw out there. He's like, oh, my heart.
He looks genuinely unhappy though. Like he was the Jaguars were up 7-0, and he still had his hands on his knees doubled over.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's about to be sitting in the tunnel on one of those carts again and just downing an entire Papa John's.
Do you remember anything about Steve Spurrier when he was coaching in Washington?
No.
There's a very famous picture of Steve Spurrier, longtime, very successful college coach.
Yeah.
Florida and then eventually South Carolina when he came back, but obviously made Florida into the kind of the national name that it is today. And the old ball coach, whip smack. Hey, yeah, I don't care about Georgia. takes the job with Washington. Completely in over his head. And I think there is a picture of him up at the press conference table where he just looks complete. Steve Spurrier is a very chipper man, even in his advanced age. He looked hollow up there. Some of these college guys are just not ready for this.
It's the risk in going college, coach, and it's the risk in going, what's the other Campbell's name?
Matt Campbell.
Matt Campbell, Yeah, but Matt Rule seems to be doing okay in Carolina, and it's.
Well, I think the difference there is Matt's experience. Like the big thing and what keeps getting pointed out is like Urban's not used to losing.
Right.
Like wherever he's gone, he has just crushed everyone. No matter if it was Bowling Green or Florida or Ohio State, he's just won wherever he goes. Matt Rule started with Temple. Matt Rule was coaching at Temple.
Right.
Temple's getting crushed every now and then.
Yep. I mean, yeah, you could make Matt Campbell probably too. Iowa State isn't blowing the doors off of everybody.
Yeah, and he was at Toledo before that.
Right.
Yeah, and in the NFL, you can't just recruit players. So that's the other thing I've heard about Urban Meyer is like he doesn't like the idea of free agency.
Okay, you're heavy. Yeah, well.
Nick Saban, the NFL is a weird one to talk about. I see some people, Apex said Urban is a college coach, just like Nick Saban. Nick Saban with the Dolphins is an interesting one because I bag on it a lot, but then I'm also aware of like Nick Saban wanted to get Drew Brees. And if he had gotten Drew Brees in Miami, we're probably singing a very different story about Nick Saban in the NFL. How dare those grown men go somewhere else to make money? Are you feeling good about Michigan right now or no?
No, of course not.
Okay.
No.
Just making sure.
They haven't been able to run the ball at all against good teams. And that's their bread and butter on offense. So, yeah, once once they face a team that can actually play some offense, and play some defense, like a well-rounded team, they're going to score like 10 points and get walloped.
Yeah, this is such a weird college football year, man. Like, I wasn't expecting Ohio State to take the lumps that they have and Oregon to turn around and lose, although I kind of expect that. Clemson being as bad as they are. 20 subs, Michigan State beats Michigan this year. I don't think I want to torture Jeremy like that.
The difference is, Jeremy, they actually have QBs that can throw. Michigan? I mean,
are you sure about that?
JJ maybe, but like we see JJ throw 5 passes a game, and they tend to be kind of good. And he's not starting. It's JJ McCarthy. Is that his name? See, I'm bad at this.
It's not even that the playing field is even for him, SC Ghost. It's that like he's being dealt a losing hand because he has to coach Jacksonville. Like, you can't just come in and like spruce it up right away. That's like the Lions. It's a bit of a project. He's got a damn fine quarterback there. I have no problems with Trevor Lawrence.
We'll see. I mean, and to springboard this Urban Meyer discussion into something positive about the Lions, I have not lost any faith in the coaching staff through the 4 games.
No, none.
They remain the biggest reason to be optimistic about the future of this team is, I think, the coaching staff. I still think that despite not having despite having a patchwork offensive line now, despite having no receivers, despite having a quarterback who limits you, Anthony Lynn is making good play calls. And making things work between the 20s at least most of the time. Defensively, maybe not as many bright spots in this week's game, but you have to come away pretty impressed with Eric Glenn last week, and he's not going to kill it every week. And, going up against a rookie quarterback who sucked ass last week, you knew they were going to do some different things this week, and so there's probably a little bit of unpredictability in what happened out there.
They don't. I at least like that they at least admit when they've kind of screwed up and they're trying to learn and fix things, like that they're at least honest with what's going on. I don't know if that means much in the end of the day when it's all about wins and losses, but it at least shows they're aware of what's going on and how to deal with what's going on. I don't know. I'm very tired, so that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but
Boop. Always great when a first time chatter is a big troller. By the way, my favorite thing from chat comes from Cromon, who says, my wife asked me if we could watch something besides the podcast. I said no. Hi, Cromon's wife. We're sorry.
I'm not.
I don't know what you like to watch, but after we're done, you can watch it. I give you permission to watch whatever you want to watch after we're done here.
Yeah. What I'm going to watch is the back of my eyelids once we're done here. Even knowing I've got to write
nice.
too. I have no clue what I'm even going to write tonight, to be honest.
CJ asks, you haven't lost faith, but have you been disappointed, frustrating at any? I mean, last week, did you hear me up here? Did you hear me frustrated that the Lions packed it in on offense when they could have won the game on offense?
Yeah, Jeremy was the most doomer of the three of us last week.
Yeah, I was very frustrated last week.
Me and Ryan were like, yeah, we lost on like a weirdo chip shot. I mean, a weirdo bank shot field goal. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, listen, there were individual bad coaching decisions last week that I pointed out already. I'm sure you guys have seen it. Like, I thought it was bad to go for a field goal on offense. I thought it was bad to only rush 3 on a 4th and 19, and I thought it was I thought it was bad to call that timeout. Like, those are some of the growing pains things that I'm willing to forgive. They're just like individual little mistakes. And if you're one of the people that are upset about going for it on 4th down as many times as they did, you're right to be frustrated if that's what you believe, but you should also be like, okay, well, this is Dan Campbell's first time as a full-time head coach. Allow him to make those mistakes. Allow him and allow him to figure out his team. Like, that's one thing that he said, like, maybe if this offense continues to not convert on these sort of situations, maybe then I'll scale back the aggressiveness. But for now, I believe in this offense, and I believe that they can make these downs and make these plays.
Isn't that the new American motto, fail forward fast? Isn't that what everyone is all about? Like, you should fail and iterate faster and faster. Isn't that your business success win that people are obsessed about?
Sure.
Got to break stuff, move fast. Isn't that the Silicon Valley motto? Like, are we supposed to reward failure in this day and age?
That's how you learn, right?
Yeah. Chris, are you limited in articles that has been resolved? That was resolved, I think. Was that last year, Jeremy? Either way, like, Assembly Bill 5 in California was stripped. So I'm good to do whatever.
Yep.
I am basically doing the writing for Jeremy, just out of the nicety of my heart at this point, though. But sure. I also need to get back and just writing more often, and it's not. I have a bigger project I'm eventually working towards, but I haven't even told Jeremy about that. So don't worry, Chris. Just copy and paste Twitch chat, then turn that in. I should copy Twitch chat at some point. Twitch writes Chris's column. Play that game. Give the staff 3 years to be singing their praise and how they brought the franchise back to the playoffs. I don't know about that, but again, like, if people are talking about, you got to smack people who are talking about firing these guys when they've been given 6-year contracts.
I mean, no judgment of anything football related should come after 4 weeks, because one, teams get better as the season go on. Two, because like start of a new regime, new offense, new defense, new players, new receivers, like everything is new. Like, let this play out a little bit, which is why I keep saying this team's going to win 4 games.
I have a theory. I have a theory in that. I think I talked about this with some people on our Discord chat. We are used in Detroit for there being a channel for at least, like, okay, this team sucks. You're frustrated. Fine. Guess what? This team over here, they're winning. or at least they're competing. Go watch, you'll go watch them. For years, that was the Pistons. Then it was and the Red Wings were around at the same time too. Then it was the Red Wings. And as they were dropping off, the Tigers were winning the Central. And then the Lions were making a couple of playoff runs, but now there's nothing. There's nowhere to go. You are stuck in a loop of everyone is rebuilding.
Michigan and Michigan State, baby!
All 4 pro teams are in the midst of rebuilds.
And Michigan fans are probably going to get their hearts broken in the next 2-3 weeks. Michigan State's going to be the same team they always are. Pretty darn good with a really good defense, but like there's a cap. They're not going to compete for a national championship. They might win a Big Ten or two, but probably not. Like Ohio State's probably still going to run away with it, even though they don't look particularly great. Like Michigan State's going to be the same, like better than Michigan. Like I'm a Michigan fan. I'm a Michigan grad. I think Michigan State's probably going to be a better team than Michigan this year. But they're not going to be that much better.
I don't think nobody's getting past Penn State in the Big Ten, I think. Maybe. Tigers, whole lot of hope in Detroit, though. Red Wings, Pistons, Tigers all have deep prospect pools. Here's the thing for me. As a Tigers fan, I need to actually see them spend some money sometime and not just, like, pimp around about their farm team. Too easy to try to pocket money right now in MLB. You guys are right, though, in the sense that the Lions are just restarting their rebuild, whereas the Tigers and Pistons and Red Wings, like the Pistons just got their tank off for Cade Cunningham. They're still going to lose a lot of basketball games. And the Red Wings are at least putting their plan into motion. I don't know too much about that because I just don't watch a lot of hockey.
It's tough for me to say which team is the closest because the Pistons did a full teardown. They did a full teardown like the Lions did, but you're also only sporting how deep is an NBA roster? 12 guys, and you just
15. But here, but like Giannis Antetokounmpo needed 8 years before he could win something.
Yeah,
and it was probably 5 into there before the Bucks were actually like competing seriously. Like NBA takes time, so
but I would say less.
If you're excited.
Because less players. I mean, you just get a couple good players, and that's it.
Not for a team like the Pistons, who isn't going to attract big free agents. They're not going to. The NBA is just that's that kind of league. There, you've got to follow that Bucks model, which is basically you've got to draft and keep your talent there, and that's hard, man. That's really hard. The Tigers are probably, I would say, the closest, but it's also assuming the variance and insanity of a 160 game schedule.
Yeah, my issue with the Tigers is I feel like they're the best team right now, but I don't know if they have a bunch of, and this is just, this is also me just being ignorant. Like, are there a lot of like prospects waiting in the wings who like once they develop, the Tigers are going to be good? Because I don't feel that sort of excitement from the Tigers. It's more like, hey, they had a pretty good season, a lot better than we expected.
Well, let's grade on the curve in that they're a lot better than we expected because we expected them to like be god awful.
Yeah, right.
But I think they are primed to at least compete in the AL Central, I think, next year. I don't know if they'll win it, not with the White Sox hanging around. But I think I'd need to see them spend some money, which they haven't done since Mike Ilitch died. And as much as I love Miguel Cabrera, that contract is still hanging heavy over that club.
Chad is roasting me because I don't know anything about the Tigers, and I will be the first to admit I don't know about the Tigers because baseball is mostly boring, especially when you're aware that your team's going to suck at the beginning of the season, and then you have to sit through 162 games. Like that's.
Listen, I cover the Lions, and I'll jump back in for the Tigers, but my attitude for a lot of sports, other than this one that I have to cover here for the Lions, is don't bother me with the nonsense about a rebuild. Just call me when we're good. That's not being a bandwagon. That's not being a front runner. That's me saying, please respect my time at this point. I'm old.
Here's the thing. I can sit through a rebuild year if it only means 16 games. I can't sit through a rebuild year of 162. I can't do that. I'm sorry. I can't get engaged. So I'm right there with the Tigers. Like, call me when it's interesting. I'm sorry. I love the thing is with baseball is like it's a sound for summer for me. Like I like background noise. I like having it on every
That's just what it's been for me. So,
Right,
I mean, I get
17
it, though.
games.
But I also don't turn it on every night. Sometimes if I just look at the box score, I don't feel bad about missing a baseball game.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, there's just, and that's why I love football so much, is just every week so much feels on the line. So much is on the line every single week. And that's that's why we go crazy. And that's why last week this team was headed in the right direction. This team is going to surprise some people. Maybe, even if the Packers hit a snag, maybe the Lions are the second best team in the division. And now this week it's, oh my God, this team's horrible. This is going to take 5 years to get out of.
Here's the thing on baseball, because, it is a lot of games. I like it, though. But I will also say, living in a Dodgers town in LA with a bunch of Dodgers fans, it's kind of, when your team is actually competing, you have expectations for the season. It's awful watching these guys, Dodgers fans, night in and night out, just burning. And I was the same way back in 2012, 2013, burning frustration all the time over the bullpen every night. Kind of burns me out. And come on, even the 80 or something games, the NBA and the NHL, some of these are a lot, and they're fun when, it's you pick it up whenever, but I don't consider them appointment viewing like the NFL, or even for me, who is I love soccer. I watch a lot of soccer, and I mean, soccer is basically on the same model as the NFL. Just in the middle of the week, sometimes you'll have your international competitions, and there's 30 matches or so, but it's on that week. It's on that once or twice a week model.
That's way too much baseball talk for me. By the way, the Red Wings are also rebuilding.
The Tigers are playing tonight.
Tigers are done. They won. Season's over.
That's the quote. You don't watch RoboCop.
True. Well, no, I haven't in a while. But yeah, anyways, we didn't even talk at all about the Red Wings, and I think that's because, one, you don't care about hockey. You think they're lazy and unathletic. I'm just out of the game.
I'm just not interested in hockey at all. I never was.
Come here.
I never am. I've tried. I just don't like it.
That's fine. I'm not going to make you like it. I'm not going to be the kind of people our guys are tough. We get punched in the face and still play through it, and we're bleeding, and it doesn't matter. I'm not one of those hockey fans.
The please like my sport people. Yeah.
If you don't like it, you don't like it. It's fine.
Yeah.
I've
got baseball, I've got soccer, and I've got I'm even out. I mean, I keep an interest on the NBA at this point, but I'm just so tired of waiting for the Pistons to come back. I think and I don't like how the NBA has gone with its culture to begin with, that I'm out. Soccer, baseball, football. That's how I go. And weirder stuff. I'll stay up and watch sumo wrestling.
How's Detroit's sumo wrestling team doing this year?
Well, respect to the legend Hakuho retiring. Did we just have an ad in screen? I just had an ad on Twitch. I have Twitch in my other window. I'm subscribed. It wasn't a rolling ad, but it was a banner ad at the bottom. Just popped up in the middle of our video.
I don't know.
I've never seen that before. Yeah.
Twitch, why are you doing that?
How the heck do I even watch that? So apparently, a lot of guys
very carefully.
Also, a lot of guys on YouTube record the NHK public broadcasts of sumo and put them up the next day. And I subscribe to a couple of sumo newsletters.
I couldn't let that slip by where you missed a prime.
Yeah, I know.
Very carefully
Thank you.
You want to get into this so that you can get some sleep? We can watch some Sunday Night Football and forget about this game.
Do you really want to watch Sunday Night Football? Do you really want to watch the Slobberfest?
No, I'm going to, though, because I'm an addict. Plus, there's cider. There's also cider and donuts waiting for me, so I want to get this over as possible. As soon as possible.
I actually bought some pans to make donuts this week. Donut pans. I've yet to make donuts in them. I also bought
pants?
It's like a pan. It's like a pan that's got donut, a donut round with the hole. Don't make me go grab it.
I thought you said donut pants. That's why I was confused.
Pan.
Because I'm interested in donut pants.
You're like my dad.
Yeah, probably. I get a lot of "you're like a dad" comments, especially when
Like
they see
dad
what shoes
vibes?
I wear.
Dad vibes.
My shoes definitely give out dad vibes.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know what he just walked into, folks.
Oh no, what did I do? If you play the Darren Rovell video, I'm gonna lose my
No.
fucking mind.
You don't know. You don't know about the new Limp Bizkit song, do you?
Oh, of course I do.
Dad vibes.
I
Yeah.
forgot that's what the name of it.
Check out your dad with the swag on the floor. Mama gonna brag when I walk in the door. Y'all ain't ever seen a gorilla in the midst, walking that line with the so fine with a blindfold.
I respect.
Keep in mind though, hot dad riding in on a rhino. Got the roller under wrap with the dad vibes. Now everybody bounce the franchise. Come on. That's as far as I'm going.
I respect Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit so much for literally not changing a damn thing about who they are.
You blocked, reported, clip.
Because that Limp Bizkit, you could have plucked that Limp Bizkit song out of 1999 and just put the word dad in it a few times, and it was the exact same. They have not changed a single bit, and it's horrible, and I love it.
I respect that this year has seen that Woodstock 99 documentary try to do a fucking hit job on Fred Durst, to blame him and Limp Bizkit for all of the disaster that was Woodstock 99, and he comes back with that. And it's a banger. And we're getting a new album finally.
Are we? Or are we just like, are we?
Well, we've heard, granted, we've heard that before with Ready to Go.
Exactly.
And that was 8 years ago.
And that's what I'm saying. It was like, that's why I put out what I thought was a pretty funny too. It was just like, my favorite thing about Limp Bizkit is how they always have to remind us that they're back. Because there's always some sort of lyric in the last like 5 singles like, yeah, we're back again. Back in this mother. It's just like, okay, but if you're back, you kind of like, if you, it's like,
so I was making sure it is in the chorus. Yeah. Can't live with them. Can't live without them. New kid back on the block with a rip. Dad got the sag in the back with a drip. Come and get a sip. La-di-da.
La-di-da. It's just like, okay, but if you're back, you're back. It's like, you know, it's the.
Are you gonna be back? Are you back for good here?
It's the absent dad who's like, hey, I'm finally back from getting all those cigarettes, and then he's gone in a week again. And come on, Fred Durst, stick with us here.
Too much Limp Bizkit talk. I think we're ready to get back into this one.
All right, should we do
I've
like Limp Bizkit at the front and then Lions defense in the back?
La-di-da.
La-di-da. All right.
Wrapping up the Pride of Detroit POD cast for Bears Lions here in the start of October. We talked a lot about the offense. I want to move over to the defense. Tail of the game, Jeremy, is still just youth, inexperience, and lack of depth. I think no better example of that is how much was asked of Bobby Price. I mean, how much has been asked of Bobby Price this first, like, what, third of the season so far?
Yeah.
And this game, he finally played like who it says on the carton. as it says on the carton, that he is a converted safety playing at corner who was just promoted from the practice squad not long ago. Like, and he got burned up a little bit in this game, but that's to be expected. But it's just showing you that there's still a lot of holes on this with guys like him. And then the other side of it is like, there's still guys like Will Harris who suck.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to be too mean on him, but this was, once again, I feel like every game we've done so far this season, I've had to say this wasn't a good game for Will Harris.
There's always seems to be at least one or two plays where it's just like obvious Will Harris messed up. And, you know, last week, I think a lot of us blamed Will Harris when it was actually Bobby's Price's fault on the 4th and 19. And I'm with you. Like, what good is there in me jumping on the Will Harris sucks? Like, you guys know it. He's not playing well. I don't need to re-say it. The point being that the secondary is young, the secondary is bad, the secondary is making a lot of mistakes. And here's the key part, and one that I think is interesting moving forward, is that Dan Campbell has said it all offseason. Mistakes are okay as long as you don't
Get it out.
Repeat them. There's the word. As long as you
There
don't
you go.
repeat them.
There you go.
He said today they're starting to repeat them. And he said that can't happen. He said the words, they're starting to hurt us. And so this is that brutal honesty that we've seen from Dan Campbell a couple times, which usually comes right before he drops the hammer on someone, right? Like he said it about Jamie Collins, dropped the hammer on Jamie Collins. He said it about Tyrell Crosby. He said it at a time about Logan Stenberg. And so we might see more, and we might see more changes in the secondary. And I say more changes is because they're making some changes. Last week, they bring in the other safety that I can't remember right now. This week,
AJ Parker?
No.
No. I'm saying corners. My bad.
Yeah. But this week, they bring in Daryl Worley, a veteran corner, and they put him at safety. And apparently, he's been practicing at safety. We don't get to see that because we don't, see the past the first 15 minutes of practice. So the Lions are trying new things because they are getting hurt by their secondary. They are leaving wide open receivers here and there. And Justin Fields did a great job of fitting some balls into tight windows. But a lot of times he didn't even have to because that secondary is just a mess right now. And it's nobody's fault, right? Like, who are you supposed to get mad at right now in the secondary except for Will Harris? The corners are young. The corners aren't supposed to be starting. Bobby Price is supposed to be a special teamer. AJ Parker even wasn't great in this game either. But that's an undrafted rookie you're starting. And I know we were all excited that this guy, maybe the Lions had found a diamond in the rough, but he's still an undrafted rookie. The Lions lost their number 1 corner. They lost their number 3 corner. Their number 2 corner going into training camp had a personal issue and never rejoined the team after that. This team got absolutely depleted at cornerback right off the bat. And we're starting to see the fallout of that. And I think we're going to see some more changes, maybe at the cornerback position, because like I said, Dan Campbell kind of said some interesting things post game that really suggests maybe some changes are going to be made. And I'm curious as to what can they do is the problem.
That I was going to say, maybe some changes, but they're running out of options.
Yeah.
It's once again, it's between a bad situation, but so are all the alternatives.
Right.
It seems to be the theme of the day, especially when it comes to that. Probably the worst news that was received actually deals with the pass rush, and that
right.
There is an apparent Achilles injury to Romeo Okwara suffered in this game.
Yep.
One of the 2 big injuries. I think we talked about we haven't talked about Frank Ragnow. I can talk. Frank Ragnow got hurt in this game too, and it sounds like he might miss a little bit of time.
Yep. Toe injury.
Toe injury, which is lingering. It's not going to put him out, but Okwara, if it is Achilles, same as Okudah. Season over. And that's your pass rush right there, baby. That's rough.
It's a frustrating situation because the other part of the defense that, you can excuse the secondary sucking. I don't know how you could not excuse the secondary sucking because of all the injuries.
We know that they suck.
We knew coming in they were probably going to struggle. The front 7, especially after last week against Baltimore, there was hope for them. And they came out this game and just let this Bears offensive line that had been dragged through the mud for the last week's performance and let them out physical them. Let David Montgomery run all over them. And that to me was a huge disappointment. And that speaks to maybe some bigger issues. I don't think the linebacker play was pretty good in this game. I thought Jalen Reeves-Maybin struggled. I didn't see a ton of Derek Barnes in this game. And then the interior guys, I didn't see them stuffing up the middle too much.
By the way, this was the amazing Derek Barnes unveiling here.
Well, yeah, I mean, today and last week. And I mean, what have we seen from Derek Barnes? And I think we tried to warn everyone, right?
Problems. Didn't solve the Jamie Collins problems.
We tried to warn everybody when it was clear they were moving on from Jamie Collins. Derek Barnes isn't going to come in here and just fix everything. He'll make some splash plays here and there, but he's going to make rookie mistakes, and we're seeing him make some rookie mistakes. I think coverage from the linebacker crew wasn't an issue in this game. It was run defense, and that was a huge disappointment. But then, that leads to pass rush, which, I mean, it's tough.
That's where I really got disappointed here because we talked about this, and this was one of the big things I was looking for coming into the game is that late in that Ravens game last week, they showed a lot of exotic packages.
Yeah.
They showed some very effective blitz. They showed some very effective ways to get after the passer. That all vanished on Sunday against the Bears. That wasn't there.
It did and it didn't. because
When it was there, it was not effective.
well, I would push back a little there. The problem is, and I mentioned this at the top, like the Lions aren't getting into passing situations. Their run defense is so bad that they're barely ever facing third downs. Because and when they are, it's third and short. And when that happens, you can't dial up blitzes because they'll run it right by you. They'll run a screen pass, whatever. This team is actually very good in third downs. Again, they stopped him 7 of 8 times on third down. Problem is they just don't get into great third down situations enough. They just don't. And when they do, like they dialed up some really good blitzes that were effective in this game. But they just can't get there. They just can't get there with the interior defense killing them, with the linebackers not tackling. It was really frustrating to see because that's how this team is going to win on defense, is they need to stop the run. They need to force third and longs, and they need their pass rush to get there. And of course, bringing this back to where the conversation started, now that pass rush isn't as good because now you likely have lost your best pass rusher, Romeo Okwara, for the season. And the positive spin on that is, hey, the season was lost already. Let's see more of Julian Okwara. Let's see what he's got. And that's probably what you're going to see. That's probably what you're going to get. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. But, with Trey Flowers already out in this game, with Romeo Okwara, like, it's no surprise that the edges weren't great in this game because, they weren't great at stopping the run. They got some pressure to Justin Fields. And again, part of that is, he only dropped back and passed it 17 times. Like, what are you supposed to do there? You can't sack him on plays he's running the ball. And so it was just, I don't know. It was not a great situation for the Lions front seven. And now with Romeo Okwara gone, it's a little bleaker. You kind of hope maybe it can be a next man up attitude. And like the Lions seem to perform okay without Trey Flowers. Maybe once Trey Flowers is back, they can perform okay without Romeo Okwara, but that's a huge loss. That's a huge gut punch. And like Ryan mentioned at our in our post game show, the worst thing about it is Achilles injuries are killers. They're killers, and we might not have.
It kills your ability to turn. It kills your ability to make those kind of quick cuts that you need. And even at linebacker, like that really hurts for cornerback. Linebacker still has those same kind of demands, especially if you're going to be coverage too.
Sure, and
it's just brutal.
And it's one thing to hurt the team this year; it's another to hurt the team down the future. And that's what we have to worry about with Jeff Okudah. That's now what we have to worry about Romeo Okwara. We don't know if these guys are now going to be
sunk money into Romeo Okwara. Yeah.
We don't know if they're going to be ready for next year. This is a rehab that can sometimes take over a year. And so that means, I would say there's a pretty damn good chance both Jeff Okudah and Romeo Okwara will not be involved in OTAs next year. That puts them behind the 8 ball right away if they're even ready to go at the start of the season. So that's the disheartening part about all of this. All of these injuries is like, listen, if it makes them suck more this year, whatever. We already know it's a lost year in terms of competing for a playoff spot, and in turn, if it gives us a better draft position, whatever. But once it starts hurting you next year, that's when it really, really sucks, and that's why it's horrible to see Okwara go down.
That's probably the deepest pain from this game is going to have to deal with that long term. I think we've covered pretty much the entire game, so it's on to the Vikings. If there's going to be one thing I want to see the Lions work on more, besides maintaining what's left of their health, it's probably just getting the offense consistent.
Yep.
I think at this point, like the defense is what it is, and it's losing personnel. Like there's no real help for that right now. Offense, at the very least, like we've harped on enough. And I think we talk more on the offense just because, like, look, we see the flashes there. We just need more out of it, man.
Yep. 100%
more of it. So we'll see what happens with the Vikings
unfortunately,
on
you're coming into a Vikings team that gave up 14 points this week and 17 last week. Defense is starting to catch on over there in mini, so it's not going to be an easy test.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Vikings' problem has always been their offense, which, hey, it's good. This might be chicken soup for Kirk Cousins, which will suck.
They got some weapons over there.
They do. You have Dalvin Cook running down your throat. All right. Well, I think that's it. Hopefully this wasn't too depressing.
To be
Listen, we have a long season ahead of us. We like watching this team. We're not going to tell you to give up and stop watching. We're just telling you, like, man, it might be hard sometimes, but that's why I like to shitpost. This is an experiment.
I'm still a fan of the coaching staff. That's all I want to say. I'm still a fan of the coaching staff. I still believe.
I don't see why anyone wouldn't be.
And that should be all the optimism you honestly need right now, because we are all in agreement this team isn't talented. So if the coaches are coaching them up and making them look good at times and getting them in ball games, even if it is super late in games, well, then at least the thing that should be working is working.
I just want to chart the exit of Jared Goff from Detroit at some point. I want to chart that and be able to tell that to my children. Just kidding. I'm never going to have children. Are you kidding me? Not putting anyone on this blasted earth. All right. For myself, I'm Christopher Fett, and that's Jeremy Reisman at Detroit on Lion. This has been a fun one. We'll try to find some more funny next time, because we didn't even talk about how funny that fumble was. I'm sorry. That was like top 5 fumbles I've seen for the Detroit Lions. Don't ask me to rank those. I will not do a list cast. We will see you Starside. Get out of here.